Cullen goes live in 9 minutes. Lynn Cullen goes live in 8 minutes. Lynn Cullen goes live in 7 minutes. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello. Welcome to the program, and apologies for the slight delay in starting. For those of you who are punctual, I guess I am not. I'm blaming it on the city of Pittsburgh. Oh, God. So, a little discombobulated for the moment. But you know, I'm a woman. And we women, well, we're prone to hysteria and discombobulation and just generally sort of freaking out, you know, incapable of handling the smallest things. I'm playing the woman card. God almighty, if one more person sends me something about the woman card. I mean, I have seen mock-ups of so many women cards that women can carry, and I'm sure they'll just get better and better and better. Of course, this one that I just brought up, the card didn't come out. No. They look like, people are making them, they look like credit cards. You know, member since birth entitles you to 20% less pay than what your male counterpart is making, double the wait for a public restroom than what men have. What else? I mean, there's so many things. They're all coming in differently, but I think we're probably better batten down the hatches because I got a feeling that Barack Obama's run for president, his historic run, the first, there was clearly history being made. And it excited a lot of things. It excited a lot of people in different ways. Some people were excited because they could take part, would witness, could be part of, could help facilitate this historic moment. Others because it upended their world. It turned things upside down. It made them uncomfortable, to say the least. That this black man with this weird name and blah, blah, blah would be over them, right? So now, 8 years later, we've got another, here we go again, another opportunity to be part of a historic moment, the election of a first woman president. And the excitement is less palpable. However, it is there. And the excitement of the people who cannot tolerate the thought of a woman in the White House is part of the excitement I'm feeling. So Donald Trump clearly already pivoting, not surprisingly, to taking on the putative Democratic nominee because he is the putative Republican nominee. It is quite clear that he is going to play the woman card. Not so subtly. A word here. An adjective there. Her shouting. The woman card. It's the same as the race card, right? Now, the race card got to the point where it was like sort of not politically correct to play it. The race card was that was like an ace in the deck of the Republican Party's political playbook forever. And then they had to get more and more and more and more subtle. Obama got rid of a lot of the subtlety because you started hearing, Kenyan, Muslim, and the stuff on the internet, just mind-blowing. But I think we're in for a pretty nasty, to say the least, campaign. And it won't be fought on a high plane of policy. It will not, because, the Donald can't perform there. The Donald did perform in the World Wrestling Network, on the World Wrestling Network. That's his style. And that's what we're going to be treated to. I hope Hillary Clinton is deft enough to know how to parlay the incoming from the orange one and to play it smart. I don't even know what that means at this point. But we were talking earlier in the week about how often when women are rising in the ranks anywhere, women have been stunned to find that some of their worst enemies in their rise are other women. And I don't know that enough has been said about that, or enough research has explained it. We tend to know that women and men sort of organize themselves differently, that men are hierarchical in the way that when they get together, they got to know who the alpha is, and other people sort of get into line. That's not what women tend to do. Women tend to be more collegial, look for consensus. But it could be that when women are placed within a structure that was made by and for men, consequently a hierarchical, competitive structure, that they really aren't clear what to do, and they don't like it maybe when another woman is ascendant. I don't know. Or is it just human? I'm fascinated by human nature. And often, I should have probably studied it. But I want to sort of, everything I read today in my ripping around through various sources looking for fodder for this program, the bizarre thing was that almost everything I read had some aspect of the difficulty of being a woman in it. And so the woman card, if it's worth anything, ain't worth much. I just want to say that. Because women have less value the way things are set up in this man's world. We have less value. We can prove it. We can prove it anecdotally, certainly, but we can prove it just with the numbers. Our work is not valued, although without it, the economy would come crashing down. All those great men who do so much, if they didn't have a little woman at home handling everything else in their lives, right? Actually, they have more than one woman. They have the woman at work, the secretary, and they have the women at home. And now women are doing that, and they're doing the other. And I don't know, there's still this just animus toward powerful women. I don't think that some men can tolerate powerful women. Women say, oh, they're afraid of them. Well, men would not say that. They would say they're put off by them. They're repelled by them, because to be powerful is to lose your femininity. Hello?
Hey, Lynn, it's Mike from D.C.
Hi, Mike.
So I've been thinking a lot about this since our last conversation about women, etc. And if there is a woman who, if you're an attorney who's defending a woman who was raped,
mm-hmm.
you want all the jury to be men, because the men are more likely to side with the woman and believe the woman. We have this thing as men that we want to be the protector, even if we don't necessarily act like it. We have that instinct of, let me help the little lady.
The little lady,
and,
yeah.
I'll get the door for her. We're more likely to help a woman whose car is broken down than another man. And I'm wondering if that instinct is going to help Hillary with men.
No, because she's not being female. She's not being a little woman. She's doing the opposite. Once a woman gets out of her place, she becomes a threat, I think, to a lot of men.
Well, to a lot of men, but to all of us?
Yeah, but she doesn't need help. Oh, I mean, if help is your vote, great. But I don't think whatever you're talking about kicks in.
Because if he attacks her the way he's attacking a man, he's in trouble. Because part of the reason politicians don't want to run against women is because there are different social norms on how you treat a woman candidate versus how you treat a male candidate.
There are?
Yeah.
Like what? I can't really think of any. Really? I think there's more ammo against a woman candidate, especially a woman for running for something that has never happened before in our country, the presidency. I mean, we've been conditioned for hundreds of years to think of women. I mean, to think of presidents. We know what they look like. They're men. We've just been disabused of the notion that they're necessarily white men. And within that same decade, to be then disabused of the fact that they even have to be men is, I think, a little much for a lot of people, especially men, especially white men, who she will not win.
No, she won't. But I'm wondering if the optics of him attacking a lady or an old lady or a woman.
She's not viewed as that.
Him.
She's a whole other thing now. What kind of a lady is she? She doesn't even wear skirts. She wears pantsuits. And she's a different animal.
He's already branding her. Have you heard how he's branding her?
Yeah, I think I have, but...
Crooked Hillary. That's what
Crooked. Yeah, and these things work. Lion Ted.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Crooked Hillary. This is how... Donald understands the abysmal intelligence of the American voter. They aren't... They don't want to be bothered really learning anything, so you can do it with this 2 words, with bumper sticker stuff. Repetition, 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 crooked, 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 crooked. And all of the times the pollsters ask, do you trust Hillary Clinton, more and more people say no, because they can't even hear her name without thinking crooked. Any more crooked than any other politician? Well, I don't know, but I think what I was going to say today, Mike, is I think we're heading into a horror show of a campaign, and I hope, she's in uncharted waters. I hope she can figure out how to deal with this juggernaut phenomenon, dangerous thing that is Donald Trump's candidacy. I don't know.
Yeah, just leave it to the most qualified candidate. How unlucky she is. But just leave it to the fact that this is the year that qualifications aren't going to matter.
Right. Yeah, right.
Right.
As a matter of fact, qualifications are a negative. Right. Apparently.
But that's because he's manipulated it that way. And Marco Rubio said in the first debate, and I'll never forget it, he said, if we make this about qualifications, Hillary Clinton's going to win. He said that in the first debate, and I mentioned that to you before, and you said, what else is there besides qualifications? We're seeing what else there is.
Isn't it something? It's just a Punch and Judy show. The snake oil salesman. I just wonder where do people park their brains when they get swept up in his oratory, if I can call it that. It's amazing.
I get that everybody wants their job to be easier. And I get that people don't have time to read 2 newspapers a day like I do, because they're taking kids to school and they have 2 jobs and...
Not necessarily. Okay, I know that's what we say, Mike, but I'm done saying that. I know. You're also a citizen of the country, and you're supposed to pay a little bit of attention if you're going to vote. And a lot of people are not paying attention, not because they're busy doing all those things, but they're busy entertaining themselves. I'm serious. I mean, that's something you do in time that you have to yourself, and they choose not to. No, they choose to know only through bumper stickers or somebody told me this.
They choose to watch the Housewives of whatever.
Yeah, okay, so that's...
Which is what Trump is doing to this race. He's making this
That's what it is.
Reality show.
That's what he has done since the beginning. And isn't this fascinating? How America has turned into this media-ized entertainment culture. That is what we are. That is what we are. And people do not make distinctions anymore between news and entertainment. They used to, but the news doesn't anymore. So the news programs have become entertainment programs. Everything, and if it wants to be taken seriously, if it wants to draw an audience, has to be an entertainment of some sort, has to hold our increasingly tiny bit of attention span. It's really something.
I'm not even an expert in this field, and I get that. So why doesn't the Hillary camp get that? And I wonder why they don't have a reality show called HRC, following Hillary Clinton around with a wacky neighbor, helping her pick out her pantsuits. You know what I mean?
Well, I hope, listen, God help us. They've got to figure out how to deal with this. And easier said than done. Easier said than done. To stand above the fray and to continue to just be the adult in the room and the serious, qualified person, I don't know that that's going to work. It doesn't help that she's not by nature charismatic or warm, or seemingly. It doesn't come across. It comes across, I've been told a million times by people who've been in a room with her, it comes across in a small group. You ain't going to win in small group stuff. He's great at the big crowds.
I read something somewhere that said when she talks about being a grandmother, her approval ratings shoot through the roof.
I bet. And I mean, it's clear she knows that. So, we're going to have to bring... Has anyone ever seen this baby?
I don't know. Yeah, no.
No.
All I know is that it's a girl.
Better bring the baby out.
Bring the baby extra.
Hey! Cue the baby! We need Hillary and the baby. God help us. Mike, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I was talking to my poor mother last night, and she said it was later in the evening, and I was talking about all this stuff. And she said, well, thank you very much. Now I'm not going to sleep tonight. And I said, Mom, you don't have to worry about this. Yeah, the sense being, you aren't going to live under the world in the world they're creating. And she then said, I mean, I know I'm not going to be around to see the carnage, but good God.
Robot overlords.
This is even
more. Around? Will you and I be around to see the carnage? Because how long will it take?
It's already, the robot overlords and the entertainment culture to come together. I don't know. Humanity is, it's toast. I don't know. I hope to live to see maybe a little bit, just to be able to say to people, see, I was right. I don't know, Mike. I don't know. Nobody knows.
To prove your point from yesterday about the cars and more people die in cars than Ebola and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Did you see that Rubio's now trying to push mosquito bite disease, that we need to panic about that?
The Zika?
So they need to get they realize they need to get people panicking about something. So they're going to try and freak people out about the mosquito bite disease in pregnant women.
Well, I have to tell you, if I were a woman of childbearing age living in the deep south of the United States, I would be very vulnerable to being terrified. I would. I was reading something about that. The more they find out about this thing, the Zika virus and what it does, it is appalling. It destroys the brains of these babies. Destroys their brains. Any woman who would find, and the kids are it's not like they have any quality of life. No, I mean, and it's here. It's already here. So I think this is a legitimate health crisis. You don't?
I think, like you said yesterday, more people die in cars.
Yes. Well, okay. Right. But that is true. But we're not inclined to do anything about that. We've come to try, you die in cars. But this, being taken down by a 2-ton hunk of metal makes some sense. Being taken down by something as big as a mosquito, and not that you're taken down, but that your child is. I don't know. I think it's very scary, personally. So, yeah, I'm vulnerable to being scared about that.
Yeah, and Rubio gets that, and he's going to start. They're going to.
What's he doing it for? What's his? What's he running for? What's? Why is he even in the?
They still want to use his name to gin up the Republicans to say what a horrible job the worst president in the world is doing.
Oh, Jesus God! Oh, so they're going to blame the Zika virus on Obama, and then they're going to. And then they're going to, and you could tell Trump in his so-called foreign policy speech, he couldn't say Hillary, he couldn't say Clinton without marrying it to Obama-Clinton, the Obama-Clinton administration. So, yeah, they want to keep putting him down and tying her totally to him, which, of course, is what you would do if you were a Republican. God.
Which only means he now has handlers.
What?
Which only means he now has handlers.
Yes, he has handlers.
And the real question is, who's going to win out, the handlers or the housewives of...
Well, I think we're going to get some kind of a mix. Because when he's not, he was on teleprompter. When he has to give a serious speech, they'll have him on teleprompter, and he'll know enough to stay there. When he's rousing his minions, he will not be on teleprompter, and that's when the stuff will get said. I don't know, Mike.
And when there's a debate, what's he going to be on?
I don't know. Questions will be asked. I don't know. I'm just, some days I'm able to deal with this and some days I'm not. It's very scary. It is scary.
Happy Friday.
Oh, yeah, you too.
Bye.
Bye. So I was saying everything seems to be misogyny. It's out there. Huh? Coming over to the dark side. No, I mean, I've lived it. So, the sports section of the New York Times today. By the way, what a great hockey game last night. Came out wrong, but what a great... You don't even have to be a hockey fan to have watched that with... Wow. Those are two extraordinary teams. Wow. Okay, so... sports section, New York Times. They're talking about the fact that so much of sports coverage, and I know this, and where sports fans talk, they do sports talk and stuff like that, radio, but they do it on social media. So imagine you're a woman and you cover sports because there are more and more of such women. You talk about a hostile environment. It defies description. And the women reporters, who also, we have now learned that if you're a print reporter, these are print reporters, if you're a print reporter doing sports, you're expected to not only do the news that you're reporting on, but you're also supposed to have a social media presence. That is huge. So somebody put out a video of two Chicago, sorry. I don't know why I put them in Boston. Chicago-based women sports journalists. One works for Sports Illustrated and also hosts a radio sports program. The other is ESPN reporter, ESPN radio. These two women know their subject. Somebody thought it would be helpful if both women agreed to sit down and have a man read out loud the messages, the texts, the tweets about them that they get on an hourly basis. It's amazing. Or not. Not surprising. And it's not like sports reporters who are men don't get people saying, "What the hell are you talking about?" Blah, blah, blah. It's a different tone. If it's a woman reporter, they are constantly being told things like this. You need to be hit in the head with a hockey puck and killed. Or, hopefully, this skank, meaning her, is Bill Cosby's next victim. It's all sexualized. It is all what they would do to him, or it's about killing him. And women, and the woman, sports reporter for the New York Times, Juliet Macker, reporting on the story said, wow, I looked at that video and I thought, geez, I get this stuff all the time too, but somehow when you see it said and played out, you realize the ugliness of it. Here's one she got. I go to sports to get away from women. Why don't you take your top off and just make me lunch? Now, the thing is, that a lot of men wouldn't say that, but a lot of men are sort of, a lot of men would laugh at that. A lot of men would laugh at that. Maybe not you guys, because I have such an enlightened audience. Here's a woman. Here's one that really unbelievable. She was in a little earlier than most women. Lisa Olson. She had been a sports reporter for the Boston Herald. In 1990, she was, I think, rather famously harassed in the locker room of the New England Patriots. Gotta love that team, New England Patriots. And what came after when she said, wow, look what happened to me here. She was brutalized. Death threats. Slashed tires. Get this. At New England Patriots games, some fans brought those blow-up naked porn dolls. They called them Lisa dolls after her, and they would throw them around the stadium during the game, doing God knows what to them. Okay? Her apartment was burglarized. You know what happened to her? Her life became unbearable, untenable. Her job undoable. She left the country. She moved to Australia. And very clearly, to get away. Can't do this. Can't do it anymore. I'm out of here. I'm going to start over someplace else. So the New York reporter writing the story said, so, knowing what happened to Lisa, the notes I keep receiving from all the creepy readers didn't seem so bad. I mean, I thought, this is what you do if you're a woman in sports. I'd been an athlete. You have to be tough. You have to take it. Guys get mean notes too. But then you start to realize, wait a minute, this is of a different kind and a different nature. Because none of the notes the guys get are ever laced with these sexual violence. One of these reporters in Chicago, who, by the way, is an attorney. I mean, she was a criminal lawyer. She was once stalked by a guy who was constantly sending her these awful messages. And she regularly got tweets from him about being killed and raped. She said she never went to the police because she'd been told there was nothing that law enforcement could do to stop these kind of, hey, you're on Twitter. Hey, man, you're out there. Comes with the territory, babe. So she's one of the women who sat down and did this video where she sat there while a man read these awful things that come to her all the time. And she said she did it hoping that people looking at it would realize that there's a human being on the other end of this. Anyway, so she and the other woman who sat down and did this have gotten a lot of positive feedback from this video they did. But she said the remainder did not get the point of the video, one of whom said, "Please kill yourself. I'll provide the bleach." So, the woman card. You want it? You want to be a card-carrying woman, guys? Male sports reporters don't go to work and have to deal with that shit. They do not. They deal with other guys going back and forth and disagreeing. Fine. That's the game. That's what they like. They don't get sexual fantasies of violence toward them. Speaking of violence and sexuality, you understand that Target is now under a great deal of pressure because Target actually came out and, as a corporation, affirmed its support of transgender people and explicitly encouraged its employees and its customers to use the bathroom that they feel most comfortable in. Go for it. So, of course, the right-wing loons went berserk. The American Family Association is now on the internet. There's a boycott Target pledge. It has over 1 million signatures at this point, like that. And then Breitbart, the wonderful right-wing so-called media group, they posted a listing of sexual assaults in Target stores. They looked all over the country, and they wanted to underscore the danger of Target's trans-inclusive policy. They pointed out 20 incidents with details, and they're harrowing. There's only one little problem. In all of these cases, none of the assailants were trans. They were all good old white heterosexual males. I don't know about white. Heterosexual males. Yes, caller?
Hi, Lynn.
Yeah.
This is Rosemary. And this whole thing all can be brought back to Trump. I mean, not that he started it, but that he's part of this. The one thing he said last night that nobody's even commenting on, he talked about purging, general purging, and I haven't had time to
it's it's been proven a totally apocryphal, meaning false tale.
Okay, I didn't check it out yet. But can you imagine him standing up there in front of that crowd and talking like that about one of our generals and saying that's what I want to do. That's what I admire.
Okay, for those who don't know, he likes to talk about this made-up story that General Pershing, I guess while fighting in the Philippines, right, was going to execute a bunch of the enemy or something.
Captives. He had
captives. They're all Muslim. They were Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
He first made a point of dipping the bullets that would be used in pig's blood, according to Donald Trump. And then he had them shot with pig's blood, except for just one of them, who he kept alive to go tell all the other Muslims, this is what we did. It never happened.
And that, I'm glad. I'm glad. I was going to check it. But the point is, this is what he's telling people, that this is what he's promoting, this type of violence. He wasn't even taking those people's lives. He was taking their eternity from them.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's been told. He used that months and months and months ago, and it was immediately debunked. And now it doesn't matter. He comes back. By the way, I was listening to Cruz the other day. Every line he spoke was a lie. So, I mean, I can see where it's lying. Every line. He misrepresented Trump's position. He misrepresented Hillary's position. He told it was one lie. I mean, absolute, factually incorrect statement after another, said with, total fervor. And this is where this sort of clueless voter that is out there, they just swallow this stuff. They don't. And unfortunately, candidates can say whatever they want.
The press does nothing.
But here, it doesn't matter, I think. If the media come out and say that didn't happen, what would Donald Trump say to them, or Cruz say to them?
Lying media.
The lying media. And his people eat it up. They won't believe anything they don't want to believe, okay? So even if in a presidential debate, God help us, between Trump and Hillary, she can bat down all his lies, and it won't make a dent in his folks. It's
all right,
a fact.
You depressed me just like you depressed your mother.
That's my job. Okay. Sorry. Bye. Okay. Back on the misogyny front. I'm playing the woman card today. I have to tell you, I haven't read this whole thing because I couldn't. I printed it out. I thought, just print it out and you'll wing it when you share this wonderful stuff with, did you see this? I'll just read some of it to you. I'll read as far as I got. It's hard to out-crazy the Oklahoma State Legislature. In recent months, what is almost certainly the country's most sadistic and ignorant lawmaking body has proposed banning HIV-positive people from marrying, preventing depressed, suicidal, queer youth from seeing gay-affirming therapists, and mandating anti-abortion education in public schools. Caller, go ahead, please.
Sorry to go off subject.
Jesus Christ!
What? I told you my name is Lucifer now.
All right, okay.
I went to the dark side.
You again. What's up, Clarence?
Yeah, you were talking about the Target, before the woman called about Target.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And because I got into a long argument on Facebook with a guy who I don't know is on somebody else's page. But the first thing I put down is that your kid is safer in a Target bathroom than he is in a Catholic church. And boy,
oh God. Oh,
and that started it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I
sure.
said that's just a fact. And then I've got some links to how many priests were with child molestation and all this kind of good stuff. Then he came with, well, you're talking about the Catholic Church. And I said, I predicted that you were going to say that. So here's some links to some Baptist ministers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so...
you can there's rabbis, plenty.
Yeah, there's everybody.
There's Boy Scout leaders. I mean, come
everybody.
on. Yeah,
Uncles,
right.
family
uncles,
members.
right.
Yeah. But the point I was making, because I'm arguing with a Christian, and he said, well, the Bible says... the Bible says, that gay is wrong and this, that, and the other thing. I said, yeah, that's Leviticus. Man should not sleep, And then I said, here's some more stuff in Leviticus. No tattoos, no jewelry. Don't sell or buy a house. The land is God's. No fancy clothes for women, no jewelry. Don't braid your hair, don't eat pork. I just, I gave the Bible, the verse and where it was from and all this kind of good stuff. End of argument.
That's right. No, that's called pick and choose. Pick and choose.
he picked and chose. As soon as I put up all that stuff, and I got him riled up on that, they're safer, and he said something like, so you would let your daughters go into a bathroom, with somebody with balls. And I went, to do whatever they want to do. I said, well, as long as all they want to do was pee, poop, or, touch up their makeup, sure.
Exactly. There's
no problem.
I don't know what it is. These are Republicans and conservatives are always wanting to pass laws for problems that don't exist. That don't exist, and that includes like voter ID. They just, all of it is about closing down things that scare them, like black voters or gay people or trans people, which they don't even comprehend. It is so true.
Yeah, and that's why, the last thing you said before you started on Oklahoma, which I don't even know what you're talking about because I turned on my radio, was trying to get the Trump voters to understand. That's impossible. It's never going to happen. Don't even try. What you try to do is get your voters out there to go to the polls. That's all you have to. It's a numbers game.
Yeah, it is.
Don't even try to get Trump.
No, you can't. Yeah, forget it. You just get your voters out. Get those people out. That's all it's about.
Yeah. Yep. And
all righty.
Okay, that's it. I was
going to
ramble on some more, but no. Okay.
No, you're not. Goodbye.
All right, bye.
Bye. Jeez. Okay, so this horror show of the legislature in Oklahoma, and they're also apparently going to authorize a law that would revoke the medical license of any doctor who performs an abortion. Now, I mean, unconstitutional on its face, as are almost all these laws they pass. They pass laws, they just sit there passing laws, all of which end up in court and batted down. However, listen to this. This is the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals. Last month, that court ruled unanimously that a boy who put his genitals in the mouth of an unconscious, intoxicated woman did not commit the crime of forcible sodomy. Let me tell you the incident. 2 high school students, 17-year-old boy, 16-year-old girl. They were drinking in a park. The girl was really drunk. 2 boys carried her to the perp's car. She was unconscious. Blood tests found her blood alcohol content to be 0.34, which could have killed her. Medical practitioners who performed a sexual assault forensic exam found the boy's DNA on her leg, around her mouth. He said she'd performed oral sex on him and that it was consensual, and she'd suggested it in the first place. She said she remembered nothing. He was charged with rape and forcible oral sodomy. A judge dismissed the rape charge because rape, they say, only applies to vaginal or anal penetration under Oklahoma law. And there was no hard evidence that either of those had happened. Then another judge dismissed the forcible sodomy charge because the law does not specifically note that an intoxicated person cannot give consent. What? And an unconscious person cannot, by definition, resist sexual contact enough to require a perpetrator's force. So in other words, because she was unconscious, he couldn't be charged with forcible sodomy because she was in no position to... What kind of thinking? What kind of thinking gets you there? There was absolutely no evidence of force or him doing anything to make the girl give him oral sex, said his lawyer, a woman. The appeals court agreed. Quote, it said, forcible sodomy cannot occur where a victim is so intoxicated as to be completely unconscious at the time of the oral copulation. Forcible sodomy can't occur because she's unconscious? I mean, I can't even... If the facts of the encounter had been the same, but the boy, had penetrated her vagina or anus, it would have been considered first-degree rape, which is applied the same in the case of an unconscious victim. But because the area of penetration was her mouth, the encounter was not considered sexual assault at all. This decision rests on largely rejected notions of rape, that oral rape is less serious, that it's not rape if a victim doesn't fight back, and that intoxicated victims are untrustworthy and responsible for their own violation. Oklahoma Appeals Court. Making an unconscious girl perform oral sex is not sexual assault. Okay. And then I came across this. I'm telling you, everything I picked up yesterday, there was something about women and women's lives being... I'm looking at a picture of two great, great writers. I'm looking at Leo Tolstoy, and I'm looking at Charles Dickens, one of my all-time favorites. However, these two guys were, according to this article, monsters when it came to how they treated their wives. Now, I know this, but they're hardly alone. The point of the article is to point out that how, you often hear, behind every great man is a woman. Yeah, and often an abused woman. The women that make these men's lives doable, who feed them, who bear their children, they keep their houses. They allow these men to create their art. And so this whole article is about, can a woman... Women never get credit for having anything to do with any of these great men's... There's a quote in here from William Faulkner that is so awful that I don't think I can ever read him again. His 12-year-old daughter begged him on his birthday, please, Daddy, don't drink. I guess he liked to drink a lot and it upset her. Don't drink. And he refused, of course, and then he said to his daughter, no one remembers Shakespeare's children. In other words, your job here is to just support me, the great man, and because you are nothing. You are nothing. Tolstoy, give you some history, in case you did not know this. He had probably the most long-suffering wife in the history of the universe. Well, that's saying something. Her name was Sophia. On her 5th delivery, she almost died. And she was told, the doctor said it might be best if you didn't try this again. You got 5 kids. That's great. Tolstoy insisted that she continue her wifely duties, and he impregnated her again and again and again. Sophia gave him 13 children, even though she risked her life every time. He also made her breastfeed, despite the fact that for her this was extremely painful. He regarded a woman's main vocation as bearing children, breastfeeding, and raising them, and was absolutely incapable of dealing with the thought of his wife not doing those things. His poor wife, who managed to keep a diary, I don't know how, in 1870 wrote this: "With every child, you have to give up a life for yourself even more, and resign yourself to the burden of cares, worries, and illness." That's a woman. That's a woman's life. Her husband, meanwhile, celebrated. So it's pointed out that the way men were allowed to live and the way women were allowed to live, the social privileges that let Tolstoy's work happen, doomed her to a life of essential, servitude. Then we get Charles Dickens, damn it. His first wife, Catherine Hogarth, who, by the way, bore him 10 children, and he dumped her, and married a teenage girl after she gave him 10 children. And he would regularly, publicly, speak of her as boring, as ugly, as fat, as insane. And yet, that didn't keep him from sleeping with her, apparently. Getting his sexual pleasure from her, impregnating her. I'll give you one more. Albert Einstein. His first wife, as you know, was a brilliant woman. She was also a physicist. Mileva Maric. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her last name right. She was, and some people say, she was one smart cookie. And yet, when he got tired of her, he gave her a list of conditions that she, if she wanted him to stay in the same house with her, that she would have to go by and accept. You want to hear the conditions? This physicist, who happened to be a woman, would have to serve him 3 meals regularly in his room, ensure that his laundry was done, and keep his desk clear. She would have to require nothing from him by way of support or understanding. Quote, "You will not expect any intimacy from me, nor will you reproach me in any way. You will stop talking to me if I request it. You will leave my bedroom or study immediately without protest if I request it." This brilliant physicist, the woman, initially agreed to this. She agreed to it. But that shows you, that's a woman's life. And there are still so many men who really yearn for those days. Sure. In Einstein's defense, if there can be any, that after they did divorce, he supported her and his children by her for the rest of their lives and did not in any way, he did the right thing there. And this woman finishes this history lesson. I'll do it quickly with this. I often look at women's history as it's commemorated in March of every year. The nods to a few women who managed to succeed in the man's world, to overcome censure and barriers in order to innovate or create or write, and I wish for an alternative history. A history of the women whose names will not be known. The ones who changed the diapers and swept the floors and openly seethed when their husbands decided a road trip sounded like more fun. Show me your wet blankets. This is what women are often called. Your nags, your shrews. I'll show you the essential grease that made the wheels turn. It's sort of like this country never would have been built if not for the slaves. On their backs. On their scarred backs. And we don't know their names either. And the same is true in large part of so many women. All those illustrious men that we learn about in history. Can you imagine the extraordinary women that we'll never know? Try to keep some of that in mind when Donald Trump starts his attempt to belittle the woman who is running against him. And have a good weekend.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.